to AURIN and welcoming Marcos Nino Ruiz. He's a geospatial E-enabler in the AURIN project at the University of Melbourne. He has more than 10 years' experience as an IT professional in diverse fields such as geospatial, financial, health, and advanced research services for Australian and overseas agencies. So he's obviously well placed to be engaged in this particular project. I can see why they chose you to be in this project. And he holds a Bachelor of Engineering in Computer and Information Systems and a BSc in Biology from the University de Los Andes in Colombia. So thank you very much, Marcus, and welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm coming here to complement the presentation given by Dr. Sinnott, so it's going to be a quick one. Don't worry, 10 minutes, and a lot of time for questions if you want. It's just going to be a quick introduction about this particular lens, let's say, or on an application of the AURIN framework. I'm going to quickly describe the architecture and then walk you through a typical workflow of this application, and finally some summary conclusions. So in essence, this tool is what would happen, is not going to forecast the future, but what would happen in the future if certain conditions that are interesting for the particular researcher happens under which circumstances. If I determine certain variables for land use allocation, could be the slope of certain parks to development or the proximity to water or transport networks, I can grade the area that I am studying and determine the suitability, and according to this suitability, I will stipulate certain guidelines to place my future allocation and development in the future. So what I do is first, or what we are able to do with this AURIN framework, is explore the current conditions that is available in my area under study. Then I can stipulate and evaluate which conditions can I think are important for my study. And then I will project the demand of a certain demographic or projected employment and population and housing data that I may have available at the time. And with these two together, I will try to fulfill that demand in the future by allocating it to the places that I think are best or most suitable for this particular allocation. In the essence, it's just another example of a federated tool in which I will be taking advantage of the whole AURIN infrastructure and also taking the risk of the challenges of getting the good data, but I can also import my own data or shop and compare different data and assign different suitabilities to different qualities of data according to what I think is best. In this service, which is again a RESTful modular architecture, I will have different modules to configure the project and configure the population. If you don't have population, then you don't have to worry about that. If you only have guideline for conservation, suitability, don't worry about all these housing and framework. It's very flexible, and it allows you to implement and configure what your needs are according to what your data availability is. So let's say, for example, that I am in the AURIN infrastructure and I want to, and that I want to shop for certain data, and this data is about the slopes of certain area. I can also add agricultural soils and the proximity to water shortage, and I don't want to assign for conservation something that is too close to water, to sewage system, because that would be a waste of infrastructure. So I can assign different weights to this, and according to this suitability weighting, I will be able to allocate in the future the corresponding allocation. So this is my what-if scenario, and I'm going to request it with the AURIN framework. And the way to do it, and the way to be able to work with the AURIN infrastructure is by RESTful service, and it's just something that any machine ready for this open and clear interface is ready. And I will get all this data and all the projections to be able to reproject if the data that I have shopped for is in a different projection, which is usually the case. And then or not I, but the controller of the what-if service will get this request and will start little by little using all the infrastructure to get information, and then pass it, might be in another federated structure, another place that runs things more smoothly during the analysis. And after the analysis is finished, because as we all know, people who have worked with geospatial data, they can be quite lengthy, so it might take a few seconds, it might take a little bit more time. This will be asynchronously communicated to the AURIN environment to publish the result, and the results will be given in the interface, so that again all the AURIN infrastructure will be there to explore and analyze the results. Here we are seeing in my particular area of study which places are most suitable to assign residential housing, and you can zoom in and start querying about why a particular place is more suitable, and different scores telling you why was this. And with this, and that's the beauty of it, you can explore and you can start trying to get more information and seeing if I modified. I think that I put too much importance to the slopes. Maybe if I put a little bit less, this tweaking and fine-tuning will be quote-unquote instantly available. You don't have to rerun the process, but keep going and adjusting to get the scenario that you prefer. And that's why after modifying a certain way, you can see that now the suitability changes. And this is very valuable to planners and modelers alike to understand and guide the allocation process to what we particularly want. One of the most important cases to collaborate and to get to an agreement between different and sometimes conflicting interests is when you can and everyone accessing on the laptop or in the same place can access to multiple alternative futures that reflects multiple alternative interests, and then they can discuss to come together into a alternative a scenario which more or less weights and make everyone happy. So we can have many scenarios, and with these scenarios, or the one most agreed upon, you can then build according to certain trends in growth, population, or demographic housing, the future in 15 years, 10 years, and whatever your data and your time consuming may allow. But as you can see, this is a map of more than 25,000 units of housing. So the analysis to calculate for more than 20 variables in more than 20 places will take more than 2 to 3 seconds in real time. So this allows to collaborate and to arrive to an alternate future, and more importantly, because of based in the AURIN infrastructure in a federated and loosely coupled manner. So in conclusion, it was just a showcase scenario of how something that is very complex and can be also very time-consuming for planners of urban research to get all the data and then present this data to decision makers or stakeholders. The source of data, the availability of data, the quality of data, and the results of that analysis can be readily and instantly available to everyone with access to the AURIN framework. The important thing, nonetheless, or with great power comes great responsibility and challenges, is to avoid a Frankenstein solution when you can just can put in whatever you want, and the only way to do it, as we have heard this morning many times before, is to work with the collaboration, the process, and the people, but the technology is there. All right?
Great, thank you very much. So do we have some questions, please?
Scott Condy from CSIRO. I was just, when you're generating your scenarios, if you've got sort of one set of conditions,
Yep.
Does the tool actually generate, on probabilistic means, a whole bunch of scenarios, or just one scenario for each set of conditions?
As many as you have configured before. If you have one scenario, it will generate only one scenario. If you have pre-configured many scenarios, it will run all of them in tandem. But because it's a linear algorithm, the amount of overhead is not great.
Any other questions?
You had parameters that were capable of being modified through the web for a given configuration. How are the underlying configurations set up? Is it done purely programmatically, or are you able to actually have configurations that are externally created?
As you saw in the first, all of these modules are also working in REST environments. So especially for the suitability configurator and the demand configurator, they receive also REST services. And potentially right now it's not in the first step of the milestone of this tool, but the technology is there to you just modify it and put there whatever you want. So it's not only the scenario, the first part that is being configurable, but each process of the all what-if analysis.
Any more questions? Okay.
Thank you, Robert Goebel, Care Research. I was wondering, from the viewer perspective, you were showing a number of views which were all at the same zoom level and that sort of thing, and to the same extent.
Yep.
Either this one or any of the following ones were essentially the same extent. And what I was wondering was, the viewer there has a scale bar, or a zoom bar, which allows you to zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm wondering is the calculation done on demand for the extent and zoom and resolution of that zoom as you manipulate the viewer? Or is it pre-done for the whole extent, and then essentially you're just zooming a cache?
No, it's done on the fly. If I show you the JSON, actually the first one, the polygon, which is there under the study, this polygon is taken on the fly from the actual interface, and that's the advantage of piggybacking on a very developed and powerful environment. There is also brushing, so the moment you zoom in into one corner, The other two maps will zoom in as well, etc. And the actually, while certain allocations wouldn't make sense if you allocate just one place because you are just dividing your infrastructure availability in a way that are absurd, like leaving nodes aside. The suitability component works perfectly if it's just one polygon or the whole area of the study.
Okay, just one last question. I just interested in when I use Google Maps, I always enjoy using the Street View functionality. Are you considering adding that?
Yes, and actually that's not my job, thank God. It's another AURIN infrastructure guy jobs, but we are planning to use the 3D city level. Although the Street View, you mean the panoramic photos? Oops, maybe in the future, if time allows, but as long as the money and the will is there, the technology allows it, because we are using open source cutting edge technology.
Okay, well, let's thank Marcus. That was a great talk.
Thank you.
Very short. Thank you.